They're basic. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'm gonna. My veins all right. Alright, hey guys. Today we're going to talk about what causes bipolar. Trigger warning, I'm going to be talking about changes, stressors, brief overview on how trauma can develop bipolar disorder, but there's nothing, I'm not going too deep into those topics. This isn't gonna be super long. There's not a lot known about bipolar disorder, so there isn't a whole lot to talk about, but I'm gonna give you what I couldn't go into depth on in my TikToks that I did on TikTok. Now, I've done 2 TikToks on this already, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you those, so here are those 2. Alright, let's talk about what develops bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder is thought to be caused by a combination of genetics and environment. Some people are just more genetically likely to develop it, and some people had a really tough, traumatic, or unstable environment which caused them to develop it. And some people have both. Out of the 3 siblings from my dad, 2 out of 3 of us developed bipolar disorder. Why did that one lucky bastard not get it? Environment! And something called resilience, which is basically just how well you deal with trauma and difficult life events. So while bipolar runs in my family, the brother that developed it only developed bipolar 2. I developed bipolar 1, which has longer episodes and more severe mania. Now, it's possible that you could have a parent with bipolar disorder and you have a loving, safe childhood and you don't develop it. Think of the genetics as being more predisposed to developing it. And think of environment as the things that do or don't trigger the development of bipolar disorder. So I hope that clears some things up for why people develop bipolar disorder and why some don't. Alright, so I wanted to clear something up about bipolar causes. Bipolar is mainly genetic. Apparently I didn't clarify that enough when I talked about this before. But there's not much known on what causes bipolar. It's thought that genetics are 60 to 80% responsible for bipolar disorder developing. But it's also understood that your environment plays a big part in bipolar developing or not. It is possible to have little to no bipolar genetic predisposition, have a traumatic event or hormonal shift like puberty, pregnancy, or menopause, or some combination of both, and then develop bipolar. Pretty unlikely, but possible. It is suggested that environmental and psychological factors influence the development and can trigger episodes. Episodes are not exclusively chemical cycles. Emotional stress and trauma-related events can and will trigger an episode. That's why I said therapy for resolving trauma helps reduce episodes. Because if you resolve trauma, you resolve possible episode triggers. People who experience trauma are at a higher risk for developing bipolar disorder. But that doesn't mean if you have trauma, you're going to develop bipolar disorder. I will do a video on YouTube about this and post it this Sunday and show you my sources and elaborate more. So now that we've gotten a quick overview, let's go further. Now, as said in the TikToks, it is thought that a combination of genetics and environment, or social, environmental, and biological factors cause bipolar to develop. It's thought that the genetic component of bipolar makes up about 60 to 80% of the likelihood to develop it, because it runs in families. If you have immediate family members who have it, you're much more likely to develop it. So the more close family members you have that have bipolar disorder, the more at risk you are for developing bipolar. Now, it's not just one gene that causes bipolar disorder, it's like a combination of genes. It's thought that several genes create the genetic predisposition for developing bipolar. Now, what do these genes do? Well, we don't really know. For one, it's thought that they create a chemical imbalance in the brain, more specifically an imbalance between the neurotransmitters or brain chemicals such as serotonin and noradrenaline. In general, serotonin is the hormone that is responsible for regulating moods, feelings of well-being, and happiness. It also helps regulate sleeping, eating, and digestion, anxiety, and even bone health. Too little serotonin can cause depression, and too much can lead to excessive brain activity. Studies have shown that low levels of serotonin can also lead to suicidal behavior and obsessive compulsive behavior. High levels of serotonin can cause excessive sweating, shivering, confusion, restlessness, high fever, seizures, and irregular heartbeat. According to the National Health Service in the UK, there's evidence that episodes of mania can occur when levels of noradrenaline are too high, and episodes of depression can occur when levels of noradrenaline are too low. I will say it is common for co-occurring disorders to present with bipolar disorder. This could be anxiety disorders, borderline personality disorder, ADHD, substance abuse disorders, schizophrenia, even stuff like heart disease, thyroid problems, headaches, or even obesity. Now, another genetic factor in bipolar is the structure of your brain. It has to do with biology. According to the Mayo Clinic website, people with bipolar appear to have physical changes in their brains, Now, they don't know the exact significance of brain structure, but they're learning more about it. They think learning more about it will actually give us a lot more information. Now, moving on from genetics, let's talk about environment. It's thought that environment is the key that unlocks the genes. Now, environment can be a lot of things. It could be trauma, such as the death of a loved one, the breakdown of a relationship, hormonal shifts like puberty, menopause, and pregnancy, the presence or lack of social and familial circles and support, neglectful or abusive situations, stressful situations such as natural disaster, unstable living situations, drug and alcohol abuse. There are a lot of possibilities. And some people are more resilient to their environment than others. One trauma or stressor may affect one person way differently than it does someone else. As I said in the TikTok, the 3 siblings from my dad, 2 of us developed bipolar disorder and 1 of us did not. Yet we all had the genetic predisposition, but for some reason one sibling and I just had the right kind of environment to unlock the genes, so to speak, and develop bipolar disorder. And why is that? Well, we all grew up a little differently. We had different experiences, different stressors, different traumas, different genetic makeup, and who knows. Now, bipolar disorder is typically developed by the age of 25, but it can happen at any other time, especially like adolescence, teen years, or your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, even like 50s and later, which, I mean, it's unlikely, but it can happen. If bipolar runs in your family, you need to look out for warning signs of developing it, which you can look out for as early as childhood. Now, it's really important to create a safe and stable environment for children to grow up in, and even for yourself now, so that you don't trigger episodes. Now, I'll do a whole nother video on the treatment of bipolar, how to manage bipolar, and how to prevent episodes from being triggered. Side note, episodes are not solely triggered by chemical cycles. It's not cyclical just because of brain chemistry. Like, upon already having bipolar disorder, you have to have things trigger episodes, which could be environmental changes, trauma, or physical and psychological stress. If you're raising children and bipolar runs in your family, it is really important to create a safe and stable environment for them to grow up in, so that they don't have any traumas or stresses that unlock bipolar disorder development. I will say, I know a concern I have about having children one day is passing on bipolar disorder to them, and there's so much to that regarding acceptance, how you look at bipolar disorder, seeing it as not a bad or good thing, just a thing. But it is a fear I have of passing it on to my children, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. And I will say, if you manage bipolar disorder really well and take care of yourself and create a stable, loving environment for your children, I mean, it's possible that they won't develop bipolar disorder, you know? I think trauma runs so rampantly with bipolar disorder that since cycles continue in families, the trauma continues, and so it's very likely to develop bipolar disorder if it runs in your family, because types of trauma and behaviors continue to run as well. But that is not always the case, and you can provide an environment that will not facilitate the development of bipolar disorder. It is possible. Just tell myself that. Now, it is possible to have very little to no bipolar genetic predisposition in your family that you know of, have a traumatic event or environmental change, and develop bipolar. It's very unlikely, but it is possible. I do want to talk a bit about my personal experience on how genetics and environment affected me, without going too in depth. For me personally, like, bipolar disorder runs on my dad's side of the family. I've definitely had a lot of the genetic predisposition, and mental illness also runs on my mom's side of the family. So genetically, I really didn't have a chance, but I had some fun and fresh environmental changes. I moved a lot my whole life. Yeah, I had a lot of environmental stressors and emotional stress, some spicy trauma that helped me develop bipolar disorder. That's my personal experience with it. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. So if you have any further questions, feel free to comment. I will answer, or you can message me on Instagram and I will answer. It's the same handle as my TikTok. It's McB_itme. So again, if you need any help or if you have any questions, feel free to message me. Again, whatever topic you guys want me to do next, I will do. I have quite a bit to go. I have a lot of content. So anyways, I'm gonna add the references for the information I used. It's like 3 websites I used, and a lot of this is just stuff I know about bipolar disorder, just from having it and doing research before, but these are just a few references, a few places you can go to look for more information if you want to read it yourself, but it's basically all that I compiled. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Alright, so I hope this was helpful, and thank you guys for watching.